Welcome and thanks for tuning in to the Victorian Aboriginal News Van Talks podcast. I'm your host, Charles Pakana.
Victorian Aboriginal News acknowledges and pays respect to traditional owners and custodians across Australia. We acknowledge the elders who have gone before, those who currently lead their communities, and those who will follow in years and generations to come.
In southwest of Victoria, on the lands of the Gunditjmara people, stands a dormant volcano with a peak rising 178 metres above the surrounding area. Named in 1836 by Major Mitchell as Mount Eels, then, by virtue of a draftsman error, literally, Mount Eccles, the original and globally recognised name of this geological place is, in the language of the Gunditjmara people, Budj Bim, which translates to high head. Today, I'm fortunate to be on Gunditjmara Country at Lake Conda, known by traditional owners as Tae Rak, and joined by Budj Bim General Manager, Gunditjmara and Monero Gunai man, Joseph Saunders. Joseph, thanks for inviting me out today and having a yarn with me.
No worries. Thanks for being here.
Joseph, Budj Bim is more than just the volcano itself, and it's more than just the eel traps that people seem to associate with that name. Can you give us a bit of an overview of just how broad this entire Budj Bim area is and what it encompasses?
Budj Bim being our creator, and that's who created the systems and the waterway and how we live and the fish trap systems. He laid himself out in the countryside from where you see now at the front of the Budj Bim Cultural Landscape Tours cafe here at the Aquaculture Centre. He erupted 37,000 years ago.
And he was a giant.
Yeah,
the story goes.
Man,
one of four brothers.
One
I
of the
believe.
four brothers. Yeah. So we got the four brothers. So Budj Bim himself, Tae Rak, which you can see when you're driving down towards a cafe.
Yeah.
And then you got over in Portland, Bim Ruin, and then you got Gunditjmara, which is the island where all of our spirits go towards him, and then he gets sent up to the Dreamtime. But with Budj Bim himself, when he laid himself out, everything that you see is all of his teeth and all of his blood, which spilled out throughout the landscape and changed everything for what it is today. But that lava flow, you're looking over around that sort of that 50 to 60 kilometres, even more, worth of lava flow from one side of the countryside all the way out to the ocean. So it's just not the lake itself or the engineering or the fish trap systems. It's the way that we lived on the country by using them stones to create our dwellings, natterbins, which we call, that are scattered throughout the landscape. There's one property that we own as Gunditjmara members with Gunditjmara Traditional Owners Corporation, and on that site there's 120 or even more stone houses. One stone house would have a maximum of 5 people, and there's other ones that are smaller that would have 1.
But these actually date back, I believe, some 6,500 years, don't they, or more?
Yeah, so you got the fish trap systems, and that's through the archaeological digs and carbon dating, so 6,600 years old worth of engineering of the fish trap systems, houses, the lot, so which is older than the Stonehenge, older than the pyramids.
Now, these were permanent dwellings, is that right?
Permanent, yep.
So that really goes against, once again, the argument of terra nullius. We had permanent residences here. Now, they were supported by aquaculture primarily, weren't they? And I would assume also that includes birds, because driving out here and going through the wetlands, I saw an amazing wealth of, there were, I believe, black swans.
Yep, black swans,
herons,
pelicans, white-bellied sea eagles. There's so much out there, and it was laying all dormant. That lake, all the water you see wasn't even there. So as soon as that water came back, it just brought everything to life. It brought people back. It's brought that mental health back, a whole lot. Animals, plants. And it's like what my dad said. He said that there's a cultural footprint on all this country. It's just waiting to be discovered, and it's waiting to appear when you're doing the right things by country, the right things by family and everything else. And it comes back.
You opened up that gate there, doing the right thing by country. You head up a team of some 13 people, all of whom, in one way or the other, are charged with the responsibility of caring for country. What does that actually mean in perspective. So what does caring for this particular part of country actually entail?
Looking after it, getting rid of the introduced plants and bringing the country back to what it used to be. It's not going to be completely to what it was.
Of course.
But it's going to come back to a certain extent to where it's going to be looking healthier, bringing back those cultural burnings that we used to do to bring back the certain plants. And these are the type of stuff that we talk about on our tours. Certain plants need that touch of fire and that touch of smoke to bring back. And it's having those conversations that we can use in a way of saying that those medicine men and women back in the days, if we didn't do that cultural burning, then they couldn't look after the men and women during that time. But then those plants and everything else that we do, that's the type of stuff that we can use in the 21st century now to use in a cafe here, like your lemon myrtles, chocolate lilies, all those little stuff we're using in the cafe at the moment. So it's all that cultural infused stuff. But it's also stuff like the water quality. So there's ranges that we've got here at Gunditjmara that look after the water quality, looking after the eels, the population of that sort of stuff. And they're the World Heritage ranges as well. So there's a whole heap of stuff that we've got going on here that people might not see, but it's stuff that we do for that caring of country, and that's that understanding of what we have to do as First Nations people on country.
How much damage, and I know it's hard to quantify, but how much damage could you say had been done to this land within the Budj Bim area itself, which is a fairly large area, prior to the work of you and your other rangers taking over?
The reflooding of the lake itself, that was designed through the Lake Conda Restoration Project, which was the end of 2009, early 2010, and that's where the reflooding of the lake. Before that, you could walk across the lake without even getting wet. And the only time that it was wet was during that big wet season, up to very top. So you can walk across, see every fish trap, but it was bare and it was dry.
And this was a direct result of colonisation?
Colonisation, when they built the Conda Drain, which was during the 1800s, and they built it all the way through the lake onto the next part of the Conda Swamp and Branksholme Swamp. And they used all this water to irrigate all their farms during that time, and not knowing the full significance and the reason why that water was sitting there. And it was designed and engineered around the fish trap systems. So all of us mob manipulated water to farm the Kuyang eels, which are the short-finned eels.
These are the eels that were farmed in those eel traps.
In the eel traps, yeah.
Tell us a bit about the eel traps.
There's over 11 systems of fish trap systems. So you're looking at stone wall constructed fish trap systems that sit inside the channels. Also within the depressions or the start of a depression. There's diversions where we're diverting water into certain areas. There's blockages where we've blocked up certain parts to manipulate water and divert water to another depression and use multiple depressions instead of one or two, where we use multiple so we can house the eels at multiple points in the landscape. Or we're cutting channels into the landscape to move water to certain parts of depressions. But at the same time, we are using the levels of the water, so high point of water, low point of water. So that's why all those 11 systems at the same time, some work together and some don't. They just work on their own. But that's where that water comes at the play and that manipulation and diversion of all the water in certain areas. So it's really complex in the way of thinking it, but as soon as you come here and on a tour and we explain that sort of stuff and see a fish trap system when we go out to another site called Curtinage, it's really, really simple. And it's not over the top because we've just changed tiny bits of the country to work for us, but it's then still working at its own natural cause and its own natural way of that level of water coming in and out. And that's because the water level is because of the volcanic system when you got the underwater table up and down. The rain system, you got the rainfall coming in, the full moon when it's at play and it sucks the water up. And also the lava flow follows Kalara, which is the Darlot's Creek, which flows all the way out to the ocean and connects up to the Fitzroy Inlet and the ocean. So you got a little play out with the tide as well.
So how many people would this aquaculture have sustained? Just the eel traps themselves? Any idea?
Well, the fish traps start here at the Tae Rak, but follow along stony country, what we call it, which is a lava flow. One house would have a maximum of 5, and probably one person. There's smaller ones. So if we go with 5 times 120, you're looking around at 600 to 700 people. But that's only what we know of, and there could have been even more destroyed because of different mindsets of people during those back in the days that destroyed our sites. So with that, you're looking around at 10, 15, 20,000 people on this country, and that's not just stony country. So we call this stony country, forest country, which is up near sort of Cassidy Way and up near Hamilton. Then you've got river country, which goes all the way down to the Glenelg. So you got Nelson, and then you got sea country. They're all different plays and different ways of other mobs living, but same mob. This was our home.
What are some of the key challenges that you have in caring for country and bringing it back to some of its pristine beauty and original state?
Introduced animals. We've got a lot of pigs and deer here.
And these are wild pigs?
Yeah, wild pigs, yeah. So people like shooters and that, it's part of their game and stuff. They bring them down from New South and drop I think they call them big balls and stuff, and they start breeding. They have 20 piglets or something like that. So it's a game for them. So
that still continues now?
Yeah, it still continues now. So it's part of them stocking up, so they've got something to go out and shoot and all that type of stuff. But they just ran rampant here with pigs. When they start, they call it rooting. They pick up all the ground and all that sort of stuff. All of our cultural heritage, or main majority of it, is the fish traps, is the layout of the stones, and our houses. So when they start moving the rocks around, they're moving our houses and our fish trap systems, and then the deer at the same time as well. And then you've got introduced plants, and then you've got the carp that are in the water systems and redfin and all that sort of stuff as well at the same time. And then willows, so they're choking up the water system.
Yeah.
And that's our main water system that brings all the water up into the lake, which is the furthest point. And you've got Conda Swamp and Lake Gorrie and all that sort of stuff as well.
How does the future look in dealing with these pigs and the deer and the willows and all these other species?
It's always going to be a battle.
Yeah.
But with the workers and the rangers that we've got a lot of pig traps and all that sort of stuff. I think a couple of weeks ago they got to be on that 10, 15 pigs overnight. Yeah. So it looks good. It's just hard work to keep management and keep on top. It's never going to go away. It's just how we just keep going and going and going. And that's the workers that we got today, talking to the future, the young kids about what sort of work they can do on country. You don't have to go to the city. You can still work on your own country, and making sure that talking to the wider community, and that's all of our allies, about what work that we do, so they understand the reasons why we do talk about country in a real stern and proper way, where when things go wrong and people are doing the wrong things by country, that's where we're just like, nah, you got to cut this out.
Let's just focus on the allies and that broader, wider community. How important is getting that message out to non-mob in the overall life and future of Budj Bim?
Well, we all sit in our own little groups. I can't just go into one place and start talking about all the things that I'm doing as a great person, because that minority won't listen to me. So having allies and having friends and people that can talk to certain groups and certain people, that's how we spread our knowledge and our understanding of country. So spreading that knowledge in a different way is so important, but it's understanding that knowledge and going, okay, because we learn a lot from our elders and our parents and stuff. My dad said, if you can plant that seed in someone's mind, that seed will grow no matter what.
What sort of tours do you have, and who are you welcoming?
Anyone.
How important is it that we keep these tours going, and what's the future of these tours?
It's so important because it's not just about showing off what we got, and we do that no matter what. It's our country and we're proud of it.
Yeah.
But it's the understanding and the education behind it as well at the same time, and actually seeing it for what it is.
But it's not just really, when you get down to it, just about Budj Bim, isn't it?
No.
It's about caring for country wherever you are in this this planet.
It's everything. So when we do our tours, it's learning about and understanding our culture in the way that it started. So Budj Bim's our creator being. He created everything that we've got. So it's learning that, because everyone's got their own religion. So it's making them understand, okay, look, if you're Jewish, you're Chinese, you're German, everyone's got their reasons of why they live.
And their belief structures.
Their belief in God.
Yeah.
So it's understanding that we've got that in play. But also it comes down to the engineering defeat, or the engineering that we've done out here. So we went walkabout and we did whatever we wanted on this country. We engineered this system here to feed us 24 hours of the day, 12 months of the year. It's a farming system. It's a process that we went through the whole thing. And then that's when it goes on to the next sites where it's called curtainage. On curtainage, we've got a seasonal calendar that goes through the 6 seasons. Early wet, big wet season, flowering, fattening up, dry out, and the big dry. All those seasons inside have indicators and things that we have to do on country. So those that caring for country, your cultural burning, seeing the migration of the birds coming up, because it's between that early and big wet season. The brolgas are dancing and calling because we've done a good job in that water quality. Seeing the bright star is a good time to go collect your emu eggs. So seeing that, the stars, and you're like, oh, yep, I've got to do that. So that's that system that you have to play throughout, because if you don't, then you don't get fed, or you don't have them eels during that big dry season of when they're not migrating, so we're trapping them. So that's that caring for country and understanding, okay, this is what we got to do. But that's only for Stony Country. There's other countries there, they live differently as well.
So different things to do at each of those 6 seasons.
Yeah, yep. And then from there, that's when we start talking about the fish trap systems.
Yeah.
And then we've got the smoking tree where we smoke the eels. That was our economy too, because that's where the trade come in, the trading of artefacts, seafood, your stonehead axes.
So you have, of course, the greenstone from the Wurundjeri country.
Yeah, so that's where the trade comes into it, and understanding, okay, we can't just cross over clan groups, because we had to have this message stick, had to be well organised in a way that we can start moving across other people's country to know that, okay, we're coming across here because we need this, this and this.
Joseph, when you reached out to me a few weeks ago and asked me to come out here, and thank you so much indeed for the invitation to come onto your country. It's greatly appreciated. One of the things that we had a brief yarn about then was, what was your goal? And that goal was to really share this message about the work that's being done here, and extending an invitation for all mob and the broader community to come out and see the amazing work that's being done. So how important is that message to you? I mean, surely you don't want to be inundated with 10 tour buses a day, brother.
You would love it. At the same time, you don't, because that's the thing that we're at play. Like, we're on a world map, UNESCO World Heritage Site.
Since 2019, yeah.
So no matter what, we're going to have people coming here, and that's the understanding of everyone wanting to learn and understand who we are in education. So that's where our footprints are so important in not destroying the country and over exploiting the country at the same time. So it'll be great, but that's where we are learning to implement and create new content in the way of digital storytelling, getting drones up and flying drones online where people can see that, because there's people doing it all over the world, but also physically seeing the country as well at the same time and coming out.
Joseph, as I mentioned before, you and I first met as part of the treaty process here in Victoria, and we spoke briefly before this interview about, from a personal perspective, what you hoped the treaty would bring by way of promoting this particular site, and also encouraging similar enterprises right across Victoria with other traditional owner groups. Do you want to expand on that a bit for me, mate?
With treaty, in the way that I see it, with us as Gunditjmara, we've got a lot, and we're advanced in the way that we've got this as a business for all of us here. Windamara, that's been running for 30, 40 years. You got D-Dub, Do It Wrong, in Portland. we've done a lot of that on the back of our elders that have done a lot of fighting. So personally, I see treaty as it's another avenue of a way that we can self-determine the things that we want on our country in the way that we want things to run for ourselves as well, at the same time with health, education, the laws, and economically businesses like this.
Joseph Saunders, the General Manager here at Budj Bim, I want to thank you so much indeed for your time and your hospitality, brother.
No, thank you. It's great having you here.
For a full transcript of this interview, visit the Victorian Aboriginal News website at vicaboriginalnews.com.au. Until our next episode, stay safe and stay informed.